Heather McDonald, James O'Keefe, and Sheriff David Clark at Freedom Summit 2018. Get your tickets at freedomsummitchicago.com.
Dan and K-Mac in for Amy this morning. Kristen McQueary, Chicago Tribune editorial board. The governor's race in Illinois, Kristen. You wrote a piece it seems like a few months ago. It was probably only about a few weeks ago, but this was the...
I can tell it had a great impression on you.
Well, I mean, I just don't remember the time, but it had the impression this is going to be bad, that piece. That you're seeing the implosion of the Republican Party under Rauner, and you're looking at a midterm that's going to be very bad for Republicans in Illinois, was essentially the gist of it, particularly in the suburbs. Now, that may have changed a little bit because of the Kavanaugh confirmation hearing, which, of course, was unforeseen at the time you wrote your piece. But where do you have a sense of the governor's race with the final debate held last night, as well as the impact down ballot?
I mean, I think the governor is closing the gap a little bit, but he's so far behind in the polls that, it's almost unsurmountable. But you can see that he's finally looking like he's trying to win this race, where I think for the past 6 months to a year, it just almost seemed like he was just giving up.
Here's his sort of last-ditch appeal. This new commercial, Bruce Rauner to camera.
You sent me to Springfield to fix our state. We've done some good. We've stopped a lot of bad. But like you, I'm frustrated because we haven't done enough. After decades of corruption, change doesn't come easy. We could give up and give total control to Madigan, Pritzker, and the machine that made this mess, or do the tough, honest things to save Illinois. This might be our last chance.
Wow, that was some dramatic music.
It was very enjoyable.
It was like Days of Our Lives in the background there.
Like sands through the hourglass.
Yes, David Foster was really quite moving.
So it strikes me as about half a step above begging, that spot. And it's very reminiscent of his wine club buddy Rahm's cardigan sweater spot in 2015 after when he was in the runoff with Chuy Garcia. He puts the cardigan sweater on and says, I know I'm a jagoff, and I apologize.
I rub people the wrong way.
Please reelect me anyway. And so we did. Not going to work for Rauner.
I mean, he did have, a few weeks ago, he did his letter or his press conference where he talked about how he needed to take smaller wins. Government is slow. He tried to make that appeal where he sort of admitted to making mistakes.
That was pathetic. I saw that. It's pathetic.
It was just too late. It
was not an apology. It was not an apology for being dishonest. It was not an apology for breaking promises. It was not an apology for stabbing core constituencies in the back repeatedly, Brutus. It was none of those things. It was, I care too much. You know what my problem is? I mean, it was
too courageous.
I'm too courageous. Yeah. Too courageous. He has been a coward. He has been a coward because what do cowards do? They betray. And that's what Bruce Rauner's legacy will be. Benedict Rauner, and he's going to go down. I mean, he's, I think, the third most unpopular governor in the country, and that takes some doing to get the better of Dan Malloy in Connecticut. He's going to go down as a failed governor, as a dishonest governor, as somebody who lacked integrity and destroyed himself. All of the wounds that Bruce Rauner have suffered, all the wounds that he has suffered have been self-inflicted.
I disagree with that. I don't think they've all been self-inflicted. And if you separate out HB 40 and some of the reasons that Jeannie Ives got into the race, if you look back to 2015 when he first got in, the Democratic majority was not going to give him a win on anything. Anything. Yeah. And if you go...
Come on. You've been around this for 25 years.
Yes, I have.
The Democrat majority was built into the price when he was running and when he was elected. So I'm sorry that he didn't understand who Madigan and Cullerton were. I'm sorry that he was so naive and we fell in love with a checkbook that he was at a distinct disadvantage and then wouldn't listen to anybody because here's the thing, and I've been around Bruce Rauner over the last 3 years. when we were trying to work together on a range of issues, including campaigns. So I've seen him, and I've talked to him, and I've heard him.
As have I.
Yeah, but in a different setting than I have been. Not as an ally, as a journalist. It's different. And let me tell you something about Bruce Rauner. He's never wrong, and nothing is ever his fault. And that's why you saw the excited utterance in December that he's not in charge, because nothing is his fault. And guess what? For the big, tough, braggadocio businessman who's going to come in from the outside and turn things around, just like Tiny Dancer, his wine club buddy, is that what we got? It's exactly what you said about Rahm, or a version of it. Arrogance without resume. That's been Bruce Rauner.
I don't think you can completely discount what he is up against. And from
Not
the
discounting
beginning, even as Governor Rauner came in and tried to build relationships with legislators on the other side of the aisle, even as he tried to build public support, even as he tried to introduce ideas like term limits, like redistricting reform, that 80% of voters want. That 80% of voters want, and Democrats refuse to put on the ballot.
Thank you. That's exactly. You're making my point for me.
But like, where is your outrage?
Term
where's
limits
your
and redistricting reform. That's where you want to spend your limited political capital.
Where is your outrage?
Cotton candy.
You had 500,000 people sign petitions for those,
because
they do matter.
Excuse me.
Where is your outrage at the Democratic majority that has stifled?
Oh my God.
Everything,
give me a break.
Any sort of growth that we could have had under Rauner.
Now you actually do sound like a Rauner ally, because that's the only argument they have. Where's your outrage? I'm sorry, I've been in this racket for 25 years. My first Republican state legislative candidate was 1994. So I've been running Republican and supporting Republican candidates against Mike Madigan for 25 years. So for the Rauner people, spare me the moral indignancy about who is more opposed to Mike Madigan. Okay? Spare me that false juvenile game. Spare me. The opportunity was presented. He earned the opportunity to be governor, and he frittered it away. Be a little bit self-accountable. Grow up, not you, him, and Rauner supporters that have the only thing they have to say is to wet their beds over Mike Madigan. I understand. Mike Madigan is the proximate cause for the destruction of the state's economy. How many times do I have to say it? Who's the guy railing against the Mike Madigan-inspired property tax system that's made him a multi-cajillionaire and spending millions of dollars of other people's money to try and advance that issue and those candidates?
But you're still saying like there is some way to work with him. And there is not.
I didn't say there was a way to work with him.
You said that when Rauner came in, he had to understand sort of what he was up against, and that you're sorry if he didn't understand.
That's right, he didn't.
What he was up against.
Because that's what he tried to do. And then when he couldn't get anything done, he surrendered. Because that's what playing Pontius Pilate, or when you have the largest tax increase in Illinois history passed over your veto. That's what that looks like. He surrendered. When you have a third of a Republican caucus you're financing vote for that largest tax increase, that's a surrender. He owns that. He owns that as the head of the Republican Party. He owns that because the legislature is going to take care of it. In addition to junk science on gender and sanctuary state and HB 40. He owns those things.
We don't need to rehash those.
No, we do. We do need to rehash them if you want to spin this fairy tale about Bruce Rauner ran into Mike Madigan.
I'm just saying that you have more of a personal thing with him than the average rank and file voter who understands that he did all of the turnaround agenda that he proposed were actually good pro-business, pro-growth ideas that you have supported, that your candidates have supported.
Competence matters. Anybody can put out a white paper with 45 ideas that all Republicans support when it comes to deregulation and tax reduction.
It was more than a white paper.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? Competence matters. That's why Mitt Romney's not the president, and Donald Trump was. Mitt Romney had a nice 48-point plan for the economy, too. And in the moment when it counted, he shrunk. And in the moment when it's counted, every turn, Rauner has shrunk. You think it's personal for me. It's policy. He made this state worse. And he became the most pro-abortion governor in the history of the United States. And he destroyed the Republican Party from within, which is what Mike Madigan can't do. So, yeah. So is it personal to me? Yeah, it's personal to me because of the 25 years I've been working in the party, for the party, to try and advance conservative reform in the party. The one thing we haven't tried, the thing that Ronner said he was going to try and did not. Did not. Fact.
Did not try what?
A conservative reform agenda like those individuals he calls his mentors, Daniels and Walker. And politically, and the people around him, incompetent. State party, a joke. The people around him, buffoons. Buffoons. And so $100 million, and 4 years later, what do you got? How's it going? He had all the resources. He has the financial the donor class all aligned. He's got control of the state party. He's got control. He's got his 2 welfare queens that run the House and Senate caucuses. How's it going? You have command control of everything and all the cash, all the advantages. And then we come now to your undoing at your own hands. And what's the excuse?
I'm not saying that.
What's the excuse?
I'm not saying he didn't play a role in his own undoing. He certainly did by signing those bills that that you mentioned. But anytime that this comes up, I feel obligated to, having watched this up close, and the very first thing the Democrats did when he barely had his hand off the Bible was file a bill and build a huge coalition against him to reduce his power at the bargaining table with AFSCME. One of the very first things that the legislature did. So
yeah, and that was defeated.
Barely.
It was defeated. And so?
And so I'm just saying there was no, you can't negotiate with people who have no willingness to come to the table with good intentions.
Right. And so what did you write about AFSCME? What should he have done? What should he have done a long time ago with respect to the AFSCME contract? Because you've written about it. We talked about it in this show when you filled in. How many hundreds of proposals and dozens of meetings, right, did they go through?
Right. 350. So
if you want to really put your ass on the line to change the state, what do you do? What do you do with AFSCME, the state's largest public sector union, state workers, that just gave Mike Madigan $750,000? What do you do with them?
Well, what are you suggesting? Fire them?
Yes.
Okay.
Lock them out. We'll put those state jobs to a market test. You don't think that the average AFSCME salary, $62,000. The total compensation package for the average AFSCME member, north of $100,000 when you include all the benefits.
I think that sounds really great, but I mean, these are people who actually have jobs to, check on children who are abused and neglected, and run the prisons and public safety roles,
and we'll start paring down those, you use a federal term, non-essential workers to show that we're serious. You want to chop your ranks in half? Let's do it.
Well, he has not approved a contract. I mean, he did not approve any raises.
So it languishes until Fat Boy gets in, and then it gets green lighted. The sound of one hand clapping. Nothing. Anthony in Plainfield, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Thanks for taking my call. The one thing that is stark to me is Rauner has absolutely no leadership capacity. All these policies that has been written about and he's claimed he was going to push and promote, they all fell down. But he could still be prospecting for conservative candidates, promoting them into the legislature, build a team that doesn't or can't be effective in the moment, but maybe can move the ball forward in 2, 3, 4 years. He's done nothing of that sort. I wouldn't follow him into a water balloon fight with the kids in the neighborhood. So I held my nose one time and voted for him. I'm not voting for him. Any of my friends and family, I'm telling them vote for McCain.
Thanks for the call, Anthony. J.B. Pritzker's got an ad, too, speaking to his competence. Another issue that was raised by Jeannie Ives in the primary, and me, and I will continue to raise it because Rauner continues to lie about it, and because veterans in Quincy unnecessarily died because of this administration's incompetence. Pritzker's ad from a family member.
I met my dad at the ER, and when I walked into that room, he was laying in a fetal position, unresponsive. He just looked like he was about to die. It was not the dad that I saw before. At that moment, my dad needed for the state to honor him and serve him the way that he honored and served his country. Nothing was said about Legionnaires. While the state was sending back emails about PR and different things, my dad was dying.
Our team did exactly what they should have done, exactly when they should have done it.
My question to Governor Rauner is, if it were your parents who were living at that home, would you have handled it differently? Would the response time have been quicker? I looked up to my dad a lot, and I loved him, and whatever life he had left on this earth, it was his. And Governor Rauner was more interested in protecting his image than he was the heroes who served our country.
That's Tim Miller, the son of Eugene Miller. Ouch. What about the Quincy Veterans Home?
I'm not going to defend what happened there.
Right. I know. It's indefensible. Turns out that Rauner wants to be everything, and he'll be anything in any moment to try and flim-flam a constituency into supporting him. And that only lasts for so long. And then what you become is what J.B. Pritzker is, which is nothing. And that only lasts for so long, too. So we're going to continue from George Ryan forward, having the ignominious designation of the worst governor in America. We've had it for, 1, 2, 3, 4 governors. And we're going to make it 5 on November 6th.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. On AM 560, The Answer.